Spirit World, number 4, written by Alyssa Wong, with art by Haining, Sebastian Chang, and Janice Chang. And in this issue, we are in the Spirit World like we were at the end of the last issue, finally. And if you remember the previous issue, the cliffhanger, we walk into the Spirit World apartment and there was that gigantic, monstrous collective hanging from the ceiling above our heroes as they were trying to figure out where the neighbors were and what we're going to do next. Well, we're going to pretty much, spend this issue fighting this collective while all the neighbors have been eaten by the collective, and we have to figure out how to free them without killing them, even though they are spirits. And that's the majority of the issue, with the idea where Xanthi's talking about, like, I need me some joss paper so I can make me a new sword, because in the Spirit World, you have to fold up paper and, use it as a sacrifice to have anything physical in the Spirit World. So thankfully, we did get the joss paper at one point, and Xanthi freeing as many people as she can by exorcising them from the collective. But what this all means, even the idea of exorcising spirits from the collective in the Spirit World, like, does that work? It does.
I don't think any of this works, actually, because at one point first of all, this issue, a mess. It's a mess. You end up having what started out pretty cool, but really to me, the big play, me and you both love Cass. You end up having Constantine in it. Okay, we have 2 established characters, love characters that we don't get a ton of. So they're in here to get people in. Why not just use those 2 to then introduce Xanthi? You don't need, and I'm not saying that I don't like Poe and Bowen.
Bowen and Shen.
The thing is, I said right away, because of being a Alyssa Wong veteran, I've read a bunch of books by her. And when you do, she always adds too many characters. She gives these big concepts that then end up meaning not much anyway. And I get that here, because you have this big play of the collective. First off, Constantine's walking. He's like, what's this squishy? Oh, my God. Like, nobody notices this. But when they do, it's fight on. So they start fighting. But the big play is we can't really fight this.
Because we can't hurt the spirit neighbors inside of it.
Until Constantine blows up out of it.
I'm telling you, half the building's killed by Constantine saving himself.
And they never say anything about that. Then, other than that, you end up having Shen, who we ended up being introduced before, that it's not a shock, but it kind of plays out when it becomes the divine fox soul devourer. It's a little bit wonky the way it goes, but then seems to eat the collective, but didn't.
And then disappears.
Yeah, and then disappears. Then you get this joss paper that's, and then pretty much it's just thrown out there. Cass says, hey, Xanthi, why don't you exercise? I'm like, why don't you do something, Cass? Like, the idea of me just seeing you out and about, and I'm like, hey, Eric, why don't you exercise? And you're like, I don't like exercise.
There you go.
So they throw the paper, and then it just ends up happening. But it happens, again, in a weird way, where she's, doing all this crazy stuff.
It's such a weird idea. Here we are in the 4th issue of a 6-issue mini, right? And all I desperately want to get back to is the idea of, Xanthi's mother being some kind of sorceress in the real world that knew way too much that was going on, and not even flinching when Xanthi was alive and well and years older than when they died. I want all of that to be brought back. I don't know how you do that in 2 more issues, because in this issue, it's like, all right, we got the collective in the spirit world. It really wants to taste on that Constantine and that Cass because they're living people, but also we're going to use our power to exorcise the souls out of the collective. That's also going to take the energy from your spirit self. That's going to wear you down to the point where you're not going to be existing anymore. But also, if the collective consumes you, it can take a piece of your spirit form to, like what happens to Bowen in this issue, to where he becomes an amnesiac guy and this, half of the spirit he used to be. So you're putting out all of these new concepts and rules with 2 issues left. And then I'm like, you're doing way too much in this battle. I'm telling you, the majority of your issue is a battle against this giant blob monster. And for some reason, you're adding too much exposition to the actual story that's going on when we have so much that feels that it's left on the table for 2 more issues left. I'm like, you're doing too much here, and yet somehow it feels like you're not doing enough for this issue. Doing enough.
Yeah, so you end up and really the whole play, when she sets this up, Cass is stuck in the spirit world. We got to save Cass, And the idea of it being really, oh my God, she's in big trouble, kind of got pushed away. We're going to make you some clothes so they don't really go after you. All right, well, you push that away. Constantine and Xanthi then finally get in, which was totally wonky through Xanthi's sister being the portal, but she wasn't at first. They ended up seemingly like they'd never get there. Boom, there, you go in, and then they're chased by the 1,000-eyed Cthulhu monster. You end up going, and then I guess Constantine at one point even said, well, my magic type deal, that's why they're not after me, because nobody made him any cool new, trench coat or anything, but he's fine. You end up where at one point the big play was, I don't have my paper, so I can't make my sword. Then you just get paper, sword, and it's a mess. Then Shen becomes a divine fox. Then Popo is even said, you're the verdant sorcerer. You be quiet. I'm not that anymore. Oh my God,
these
what's going on?
concepts that we're throwing out, like Shen, him turning into a gigantic fox demon, fine with, because I don't care about this guy who's wheeling and dealing, eating hearts in the freaking spirit world. He can do whatever the fuck he wants to fucking start, because he's not a main character to me, like Popo, who becomes this verdant sorcerer that she doesn't want to talk about anymore. And then we have to contact the Jade Council. Oh my God, they're a bunch of assholes. We can't contact the Jade Council. And I'm like, fuck, what are you doing? I'm like, it's too much. And I'm like, it's getting away from the only thing that I thought was interesting in the real world with Xanthi's family.
And you would think Popo at one point was part of the Jade Council. She ended up quitting because they were doing sus things, but she was you get that idea, but how are you going to fit all this in? And really overall, it just ends up being a book that I just think that in my mind, me and you have a story we want to tell. You tell me, right? I have a 30-issue story. Oh my God. And you tell, that sounds awesome. All these things. And then they get back to you and say, by the way, you only have 6 issues. Well, you're going to have to figure out things then. Like, okay, well, I really want to tell this story with the main character, and hopefully people will like it enough that I get that. I think that Alyssa Wong just like, I'm going to shove 30 issues of story into 6 and think that bigger is better, and it's not. It's a mess.
Well, that's the thing, is even the idea with everything that I just told you that was stacked into this big fight scene issue, when, Xanthi finally, frees as many people as she can from the collective and passes out, they wake up, and to the point where, like, hey, what's going on? Oh my God, what's wrong with Bowen? He's not himself anymore because the collective took a part of him, and this happens, and all of a sudden the collective is speaking through Bowen about how it wants Constantine and Cassandra, and then all of a sudden it's like, I invite you to the underbelly, and out of nowhere, Constantine and Cass are walking down a freaking spiral staircase, and I'm telling you, out of fucking nowhere, and they're being controlled by the collective to fight Xanthi, and I'm like, look, I don't know what just happened right now. It's just, you have Cass telling Xanthi to run because their ass is about to get freaking kicked by Constantine and Batgirl.
You go, I'm telling you, within 5 pages, pretty much you get, and even this, the collective's there. You end up having Xanthi say, I'm going to save everyone. Oh my God, I'm going to do it. Pulls out one little girl, goes, oh, hey, Mia.
Mia, the neighbor girl.
Are you going to save my mommy? I'm going to save everybody.
I just imagine it's that same scene as when Constantine blows up all the collective around him, killing anybody that was a part of it. Mama!
And then Shen seems to eat him. I mean, it's all over the place. I like the art. I always have liked the art enough. Good. But the art connected with the script, I cannot tell a lot of what's happening. It is. It's very crowded.
Because of the action and the way they want to present it panel to panel, and like a big spread page kind of over-the-top look to the art to try to make it bigger than it is. It gets very crowded and very okay, let's just kind of move on because it's a fight scene.
I mean, at one point you end up where they're hitting the collective. Then even when, at one point it tries to connect to Cass starts thinking back at fusion memory. She starts going to town. One point, you legitimately see Xanthi just beating the crap out of this glob, yelling, we can't hurt the glob because it'll hurt people, and then wishes she had her sword.
Even the thing when you just brought up the idea, because for some reason it just didn't dawn on me, with all the stuff that's being stacked and things that I want to see, after the last issue, I think it was, I thought it was going to be a big thing of this issue to talk, or not this issue, but the series, to talk about the idea of when Cass died and what it means to her, that when Lady Shiva, killed her and brought her back to life, because it seemed to be a revelation to her when Shen told her, but I don't know how we're going to get back to that even.
The whole play of this series, because you did want to have Cass and Constantine in, that's a good play to get people involved with a new character.
I got excited.
But it was good enough. I mean, you didn't really have to go any further than Cass is trapped in the spirit world. Constantine and Xanthi have to fight their way to her, grab her, get out. You have gotten so far away from things, and then, like you said, you have to just throw in this panel with Cass. Oh my, the fusion member. I'm like, what? What are you doing
even
here?
When you go back to 2 issues, and the idea went out of nowhere, the sister that Xanthi didn't know because she was born after Xanthi died. You are my portal after all. That made no sense to me. Are we ever going to get back to that in the family? Because that's, like I said, all I care about at this point, because it's just stacking stuff. I'm like, deal with one thing first, please.
Seriously, that second issue, not to get too into it, but you even threw in the idea of death names and things like that. I mean, you tell a story first.
Dead names,
Tell a story and get in with that. And like I said, get a good solid story that gives us Xanthi, with Cass and Constantine as that gateway into it. And then at the end of the 6, it's what I've been saying about, say, even Hawkgirl, that first issue, but I said about Blue Beetle. Give us a reason in the 6 issues to like Xanthi and want more,
I agree.
and then hopefully you'll get more.
Leave
right now, this other shit off the table. It's too much.
I'm saying Xanthi gets lost in the shuffle with what they're doing here, because right now it's just like, okay, I need some Joss paper to make a sword, and I'm doing stuff in the spirit world, but why do I care about you in the long run to keep me coming back?
Why do you care? Because, again, I don't mind the characters of Popo and Bowen. But at issue 4, do I need to know that Popo was the verdant sorceress and doesn't like the Jade Council, or that...
These things that I don't understand?
Yeah. Like, what? And then, just to end this, because the whole play of then, okay, the Jade Council. All right, well, Eric, we're going to get now they're going down spiral staircases.
To the underbelly of the spirit world.
What? Like, what are you doing? This is so lost. It is it's worse than my
Maybe
ADHD.
It will all come together to a point where down in the underbelly, the collective is a part of the Jade Council, and also Xanthi's mother is a part of the Jade Council.
The mother's there, who actually in the spirit world is married to Mr. Hung.
Oh, yeah. He's still missing.
Yeah, he's still missing. Mia's mom is actually the aunt, or I'm like, what? What is happening? What is going on?
It's like Vin Diesel said, it's all about family.
And then remember the idea of really and I mentioned this with the Night Terrors, when you give rules, you have to kind of go. The idea if you're in that space, you're going to start having problems, both Constantine and Cass, but they kind of push that aside. They're just kind of going around doing things.
I got special clothes. I got magic. It's all good.
Yeah. He blasts the hell out of that whole collective.
Yeah, they're dead.
He comes out and
dead since they're already spirits.
That's a wreck. But what would you give it?
Sadly, the thing is, I looked forward to Spirit World when it was announced. I thought the first 2 issues were pretty good overall, and it got me excited. It's just the last 2 issues have really spun out of control, and I just don't see the direction the story's going anymore. And even if I think about where it could go, it's not the places that I actually want to see that we've already felt like it was set up. The art's fine throughout. It's just this action-packed issue just kept adding things and not really answering any questions that I had up to this point. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm a 3.5. And again, just personal. I'm being a selfish guy that I am. When I went to read this, I wanted to learn about Xanthi. I also wanted to learn a little bit about the spirit world. And we're getting not even the walking tour. It's like the running at a full sprint and not seeing much of the Spirit World tour.
It's called Spirit World. You want to understand Spirit World, but right now we're focused on the collective, which is out of the ordinary in the Spirit World, and we're putting all our focus on this collective, which we still fully don't understand.
Yeah.
So the place don't understand because we're not focusing on it, and the thing that we're focused on, nobody understands, so we can't really understand that either.
To me, it's such an easy play. You end up having, again, Cass is stuck in the Spirit World. Nothing crazy with the collective. She's just there. The spirits are drawn to attack her. They go to save her. Yeah, we meet Popo and Bo, and you kind of go, boom, we get it. But you'll learn things then. Maybe you can go to different places, but it's just idea on top of idea.
Just a bunch of grave encounters.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, God. It's the not so spirited world for me. I don't get it.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.